Good morning. Actually, I guess officially afternoon now. Welcome to the to Travels with Tulsans. This is our fourth in 8 presentations that are sponsored by the Friends of the Tulsa City County Libraries. And we welcome you and hope that you will join us again next week when George Mowbray, who's right there in the other lovely boutique, will be not taking us back to Indonesia, but will be taking us down the Grand Canyon. And for those of us who have not had the courage to do so, it'll be wonderful to watch and go vicariously. If you are not a friend of the Tulsa City County Library, we would love for you to join us. There are it's not an application. What do you call it? Say it again. Registration. To register as a friend of the Tulsa City County Libraries. We would love to have you join us and help, excuse me, and help support our 5-star library, which is really cool that we have that designation now. Okay, our presenter today is Anitra Lavanhar, who's standing right here. Anitra moved to Tulsa 24 years ago. Maybe it's 25 now. So it's 24, okay. With her husband, Marlon, who is a minister at All Souls Unitarian Church. Anitra has worn a few hats since moving here, including founding board member and program developer at the Discovery Lab, which that's really cool. I love that place. And now a photographer. She does portrait and fine art photography and has been fortunate to be able to travel to some amazing places. Anitra also teaches photography and has 2 children, Lila, age 15, and Elias, age 23. Please join me in welcoming Anitra Lavanhar.
Thank you guys all for coming out. So happy to see you. I'm going to just get rid of that there. Okay. Welcome. For those of you who don't know me, I wanted to say a couple more things. I have been a photographer since about 2015, and I do, like I said, fine art photography and portrait work. I actually have a sign up for my mailing list in the back, and I only send out a few emails per year, but I like to let people know about classes that I'm offering. I teach, right now I'm teaching an 8-week series at Philbrook for their Stay Gold session, and I'll be doing another one in the spring, and that's actually all using the smartphone, so it's pretty accessible and really fun class. I also teach through the Liggett Studio, and I've been a part of many shows there. There's one coming up that I hope to be part of called the She Makes Art Show, so that's a wonderful place to go check out beautiful artwork. And then I'll also have a couple classes coming up at Oxley Nature Center, so very excited about all of that coming up and love sharing pictures with all of you. So I can't wait to begin here. What I'm going to start with is the picture that you see here, and that is of an offering. These offerings are all over, especially Bali, but really all over Indonesia. And we're going to start our trip in Bali. And actually now I've got to back up a second and tell you why I went to Indonesia. So this is kind of a big piece of this story. I've been doing a martial art called White Crane Silat. It's based in Chinese Kung Fu, but it's from Indonesia. I've been training in that style for over 35 years now, on and off. I took some time off, but I started in New York and continued in Boston. And then when I moved here, by that time I was a teacher, so I was able to start a group here. It's not a mainstream martial arts, so it's, there was no teacher here except for me. I still do have a small group that I teach in my home, and in about 2020, they were going to do an international retreat to Indonesia. I had never been, even though I've been studying this for so long. And of course, got all signed up, and what happened? The pandemic, and everything got canceled. So that was unfortunate. But then finally this past summer, it got rescheduled, and I was finally able to go. So this trip was not so much about photography. It was really more about attending this retreat. And you'll see a little bit more. I'm going to share some pictures from the retreat as well there in the slideshow. But I didn't get as much of a chance to explore the countryside as I would have if I hadn't been in a 10-day martial art retreat. Anyway, let's see. The offerings, back to the offerings. They're called Kanang Sari, and forgive me if I'm not pronouncing everything correctly, but well, actually, even to back up again, Bali, the word Bali means offering. And we started the trip in Bali, which was wonderful because it was a way to kind of decompress after a long trip. I had 5 days there, and I actually got to stay in the resort that used to be the founder of my martial arts summer home. And it's turned into this gorgeous resort. And his son, who is my trainer back in Boston, lives there. So it was an incredible opportunity to be able to stay there. And now I'm going to back up to the offerings again. As you can see in this one, you have, usually the offerings consist of food, some kind of food, rice, sometimes fruits or sweets. There's flowers, their baskets are actually made out of different palm leaves or banana leaves usually. And then you might have betel leaves. You might have anything from cigarettes to coins to candy, and then always the incense on top. And the incense is meant to awaken the gods. The offering is meant as something to nourish the gods and to invite them to come down to the island. So instead of like praying up to your God and asking them for a favor, this is more inviting them to come down and an expression of gratitude. But you see the offerings everywhere. They are in front of homes, they're in front of statues, in front of trees. They're on the road. You practically walk all over them at times. And as when you get closer to the temples and different holidays, they get larger and more elaborate. And we'll tell you a little bit more about that as we go. This is just a picture of the resort that we stayed in. It's quite lovely and quite a nice oasis, because I will tell you, Bali, or Ubud, the city, the main city in Bali that we stayed in, is extremely crowded. And people told me it was crowded, but I had no idea how crowded it was until I went. So it was lovely to stay in this gorgeous resort. And this is just one example of the amazing artwork that you would see there. Just incredible stone carvings everywhere. And then this is in the resort as well. And this is a banyan tree, and you see the wrappings around it. I was kind of confused. And there's even a little offering right in front of that with the sculpture there. I didn't understand why they had these aprons around the trees. And what I could gather is that really everything is spiritually significant in Bali or in this area. And so the trees, there's different gods for the rice paddies, and if you're going to cut a tree, for instance, if it's in the road and they need to cut it, they have to get a priest's permission first. So they revere everything. And really it's the environment and the nature that sustained these people for so long and still do. So that's why you see them. Well, I believe Bali is Hindu and Buddhist mixture. And then the rest of Indonesia is more majority Muslim. So a different feeling in different places. The gamelan, I don't know if you've heard of that. That's like an Indonesian orchestra, and there are many different percussive instruments. It's absolutely beautiful to listen to, but it's also beautiful to see. So this is just one instrument that would be part of the gamelan. Here is my trainer, E. He is, I believe, in his early 70s and just absolutely amazing still to this day with his martial arts. And behind him is Cheryl, who came with me met me there from California. She is 61 and she got her black belt when we were there. So that was pretty amazing. I'm gonna hide that again. Okay. No, okay, keep going. There we go. We see the woman is usually every morning, sometimes in the afternoons, they come back, and even in the evenings, they'll do another offering. So here, it's always made by women, and it's handmade. These little things are all handmade, and they're She just was walking around the resort, putting the offerings in all the different places. I would think it would be a full-time job for someone just to do the offerings, because there were so many spots. And that's kind of a close-up of the offerings with the sculptures there.
Do they leave them there for a period of time and then pick them back up again, or?
Well, I think what happens is that they're enjoyed by the gods, but also by the monkeys and the dogs and things like that. So yeah, they do get cleaned up when, and sometimes they get, used in that way. And then nature is just it's so lush, so beautiful. They're everywhere you look. It's just incredible, just giving you a sense of the lushness there. And now we're in Ubud. And yeah, they carry the things on their heads a lot of the times. And you can see it's very catered to tourists there. It was so crowded there, but you just turn one corner and you can walk down into these trails into the rice paddies. So this was another wonderful escape from the city. You can see, so like a pretty narrow walking trail, and they do have motorcycles and bikes on them who whiz by, and you have to really be careful where you're walking, but no cars. So this is kind of walking through the rice paddies. You can see that you have, it's catering to the Westerners with the downward dog there. Like lots of kind of new age tourists, I would say, there. And a lot of artisans, just everywhere you look, art being made, being sold, just beautiful, beautiful art through their clothing, through the, household stuff. It's just incredible. These are made out of coconuts, little carvings. And look at those houses. These are, if you go to Bali, you can stay in a place like that, and it's in the rice paddies and everything. And you can see these people these are, workers carrying some kind of machine, and that's how they have to carry it, because there's no other way to get it through this area. Now we stopped for lunch at a restaurant, and you can see again the offerings there right up by their little statue. So it's usually near something that's going to be representing, what they're honoring. So colorful. And that was our view from our lunch spot. Another artisan at work. And now here you can see what I mean by crowded. I mean, crossing the street was taking your life in your hands, and the smell of exhaust and just the air quality. It was not fun. I did not enjoy that part of Bali. And I'm sure there are many ways to get out of that and to get to different areas that are not like that. But that particular city is very, very crowded. I mean, they have a lot of those rotaries instead of lights. And so it just was all challenging. This is just the door of our room at the resort. I mean, just couldn't get over it. Look at that. And that's another entryway in the resort as well. Amazing beauty. So we got to do a couple day trips when we were there. We couldn't go far. I never even made it to the beach, unfortunately, because it was a little further out from where we were. But this place was called Pura Mengening. Not positive on the pronunciations there, but it's a healing spring, and it's dedicated to the god of water. And they believe that the springs have healing powers. It's built, I think, somewhere in the 17th century, and there's a temple there as well. But you can see all those offerings piled up there. And what we did is we would go into the water and pray at the different waterfalls. It was really quite a moving experience, I must say. Just so serene and lush and beautiful. So I stood under each one of those and did a little prayer while I was there. There's our shaman guy kind of helping us out with the offerings, and this guy actually did we had to pay him, but he did a separate little blessing for us. And at one point he had us drink some water, and I kept thinking, oh gosh, I really shouldn't drink this water. And I did, and I think that wasn't a good idea. But it was a beautiful experience. And there you can see, you have to wear the sarongs when you go into the holy areas. So when you go in the water, you are wearing them at the same time. And this is our crew. You can see we just kind of put the sarong over our clothing, and yeah. We had to walk down a lot of steps to get there. And that's kind of just an example of the gorgeous landscape, so incredibly lush. And this is Ganesh, the remover of obstacles. I love Ganesh and the statues there. And then as you're nearing these kind of holy places where, again, there are a fair amount of tourists, there'll always be shops lining the area with different artisans selling their wares. And again, you can see, I mean, I had to stop a few times coming up those steps, and I'm in pretty good shape. And there he is, I don't know how old, you know, carrying this huge load on his head up the steps. It was just amazing. I love all the artwork. I could have brought home a little bit of everything. Okay, so this is another amazing place that we went to. This is called Pura Gunung Kawi. And these are shrines that I think were, they said, built in the 11th century, built to worship the ancestors of some ancient kings. It's a World Heritage Site, and it's a whole ancient temple complex, very sacred place with shrines carved directly into the face of the rock cliff. You do have to descend like hundreds of steps to get into this place as well. And you have to wear the sarongs. Isn't that amazing? And you can see how old just some of the sculptures and stuff are there, covered with stuff. No, don't do that. Okay. Some of our crew there. And then again, stopping for lunch. This is the restaurant. I mean, this place, it was so ginormous, and it had this huge, huge, huge covering, just made out of bamboo, I believe. You can see a little bit more there. And then this would just be, you know, riding through a neighborhood and just seeing what's there. So it might be a little local temple, it might be someone's home. But speaking of someone's home, we had an amazing opportunity to go visit a friend of mine who, through the martial art community, actually she's American, and she ended up moving to Bali and married a Balinese man. And this is her backyard. And it's amazing. And she's a gardener and a herbalist, and really amazing person. So I knew her years ago in New York before she did all this. And so we got to visit her. And so every house will have their own little altars and shrines. So this is kind of their family altar, or part of it. There's a few different things. It's like paradise in her backyard here. And she has taken it on herself to learn how to do the offerings that the normal Balinese housewife would do. She doesn't have to, but she decided she wanted to do this. And let me tell you, it is a huge job. So not only are there offerings, just like I showed you before with in front of the sculptures and things like that, but this is a big festival that was about to happen. And she's spending months preparing for it. The amount of offerings and the details in this were just incredible. And she invited us to help her make them this afternoon. And you can see the kind of long sticks there. We would take like a banana leaf, and then you'd place some flowers and moss and different things, and then you'd have to poke through it, and that little stick would kind of keep it in place. And every single color, every single object has a significance, has a meaning. You can see here, you have the baskets made out of maybe the banana leaves or something, but then there's different fruits and objects that are placed, and it's the placement of them, the direction that they're placed, And the order that they're placed in, everything has a significance, and she has to memorize all of that. Now, I will say she does have a housekeeper that was helping her out. You can see her up there in that picture. And so whenever she had a question, she could ask her. And she has been doing this for a few years, and it's, I guess she get used to it over time, but I just was incredibly amazed at the details of all of this. Food means prana, which means life. And so there's always that food aspect of putting it out for the gods to enjoy. Let's see, the different colors symbolize different gods, lots of gods. You can see what she does is she starts to make them and then they start piling up. And so I thought, oh, this is really pretty, but then it keeps piling and getting bigger and bigger, and it was just crazy. So then she took us to the temple because we were going to deliver the offerings, and she gave us some sarongs to wear to go to the temple. And this is inside the temple. So you can see the elaborateness of this. I mean, these are just temporary things made for these festivals. Incredible. I love how they have like the parasols protecting the different sculptures and gods, and they're all dressed up. This is just a little village temple too. This is not like a big city temple. The entryways are just incredible. I love these, and I believe they were set up just for this particular holiday. And then this is yet another place we went, and this was very ancient, and I don't recall the name of it, but I remember thinking when I was standing there that I felt like I was in like Disneyland, but it was real, it would be something that you would maybe see and pretend, but this is the real thing. And you go in and it's incredibly old inside, and this just on the outskirts, taking a couple nature pictures, but you can get a taste of kind of the ancientness of it all. I love the roots on these trees. And again, more offerings, more incense, more waterfalls, more lushness. And then the tourists. These guys cracked me up with their matching outfits. And all the many things that you can purchase. And you can't go to Bali without going to the monkey forest. This is a very special place there. And I forget how many monkeys are there, but these guys are really little rascals, and you cannot bring in any food. You don't really want to have anything that they can grab, because they will. And when we were walking in, some other people were carrying a bag of food. I don't know why they did not get the message, but they got accosted by the monkeys. Lots of crazy sculptures in this particular place, and some of them actually very sensual and kind of funny and fun. So I don't really know the whole story behind why that it was the case, but as you can see, there was that kind of voluptuous, sensual feel to this whole place, and it was really fun. Not only walking through to see the monkeys, but the artwork, and it was in a literal forest outside of this city. They have some pretty sharp teeth too, so they were not like, you didn't want to go right up to them. Little mama with her baby. And just incredible, like they get to just hang out on top of the head of the dragon thing. It's just so cool. And of course you could pay extra to get a tame monkey to feed them. My friend Natasha just loved doing that. I love taking the picture, but not. And those trees, look at that behind. I just can't even get over that. Okay, bye, monkey. So now we're back in Ubud, and this would be an example of a little convenience store with the guy with the taxi thing. You can tell you're in a touristy area, but there's just so much color everywhere. You'll see that as well. I think this was near a temple in the city. You can see she's got her kids with her, but she's got some fans she's selling, and some more amazing very expressive too. And there you have almost like a convenience store on the go. I don't know, they're just a delivery truck, but again, so much color. And this was, they were getting ready for a funeral for one of the sons of like the king of that area. So it was a big deal. This thing went up, as you can see that in the background, that's how tall it got to be. And we had to leave extra early that day because we were leaving to go to Jakarta. And we knew that if we waited, the streets would just be filled with people. So we had to clear out a little early to get to the airport. And then we did fly to Jakarta. And from Jakarta, we took it was supposed to be an 1.5-hour drive to the city of Bogor, which is where our headquarters are and where we were going to meet with the rest of the retreat people to go up to the little retreat center. The 1.5-hour ride from Jakarta turned into at least a 3-hour ride because of all the traffic. It's just very congested there. This is another example of the amazing color there. Walking along the streets and some of the gorgeous houses and just more and more beauty. This is Cheryl. I had asked her to pose for me because I decided to do a photo project on the women of my martial art. And so this was an amazing opportunity because we were in this setting where our martial art ancestors used to train. This concrete floor was their main training space outdoors. And I have seen pictures and images of it for years. They don't train there anymore. We actually have a beautiful indoor space in the resort, but it was really lovely to get a chance to be there. So our martial art has movements that are based on animals, monkey, dragon, tiger, crane, butterfly. They also are based on the gods and the goddesses and on different elements. So it's very interesting and beautiful form. Here you can see there's a huge infrastructure and economy built off of these offerings and all of that. So this is a whole store just selling the stuff that you would need to create these offerings for the festivals. And then now this is my view outside the window in Bogor. So Bogor is just supposedly an 1.5 hours outside of Jakarta and where the headquarters are for my martial art. Volcanoes everywhere you look, it's very cool. They weren't, but I'm sure there's some and would be. So this is the main training center. We didn't go and train there. We just met the bus to get up to the retreat, but it was really fun for me to finally be able to see it. And what I didn't say before is with the pandemic happening, one of the benefits came for me is that the benefit of Zoom and being kind of isolated here in Tulsa, I was suddenly able to train with my friends and colleagues from all over the world, including Indonesia. So I actually now train over Zoom 6 days a week with my teacher from Indonesia, my teachers from California and New York. And so it's really been quite wonderful. And it helped me get ready for this retreat. So these are just some street pictures in Bogor. And now we are at the retreat center. And our retreat center is huge. And this training space was very huge. And it's just got a roof and then it's all open along the sides. The weather was gorgeous. It was up in the mountains, so it wasn't too hot. It was really lovely. And a large part of what we studied when we were there was these partner exercises, where we're learning to use our timing, positioning, and awareness of our body and the other person's body. And we use that to throw the other person. So you can see it's kind of happening right there. She's bending there with her elbow and it's carrying him into a throw. But it's actually kind of gentle throw. I was falling and throwing the whole time I was there and I never got injured or anything. It was really quite nice. And just an amazing learning experience. This, what you see them doing here is we call it feeling. And it's a back and forth partner exercise that we use like as the precursor to our sparring. And our sparring, I love the name, it's called Twichu, which literally means exchanging sweat. So it's very dance-like and beautiful, and you see people falling. This is Flora. She's one of the senior practitioners and teachers, and she is from France, but lives in Bali as well. And she's doing a movement They're one of the long movements, they're called. They're almost like dance routines. And another, lots of people kind of partnering up and working together, going over the movements together, lots of getting up and down off the floor. It keeps you young for sure. Flora is actually, I believe, in her late 60s or early 70s. I did, however, I actually did a black belt test when I was there as well. And it was very, very rigorous and very extreme. And at one point they had you do these like crazy activities. And this one was having to walk, hooking your feet underneath a very heavy bamboo pole, and then twisting it around and then continuing to go. So when it twisted around, it had to go around my ankle. And I definitely was overusing that one and it got very bruised. But they actually have this thing called arak that they make there. And I put it on my bruise and it was gone within a day or two. So that was pretty cool. This is Jane from New York. She's doing another movement. And my friend Susan, who lives now in Spain, and Jane, you can see them doing some of that partner exercises that are leading you into eventually throwing the other person. We have a lot of fun when we do this. It's not, I mean, we're serious and we're learning, but we're also laughing a lot, as you can see there. And the person on the right here, that's Hetty. She is the wife of the head guru of the head teacher. And she and I do a class over Zoom. So was so wonderful to be able to see everybody in person. And you can see the amount of people, kind of get an idea of that from the space. This was the view from our dining area, the amazing view. And then I did do a lot of pictures during our training sessions, but then I also did some portraits outside to work on this photo project that I'm hoping to maybe even turn into some kind of show or book eventually. This is maybe a not so gentle throw. And Jijin, who is the head guru, is the person making that funny face on the right there. So in the training center, in the resort, we were up kind of in this little mountainous area, just a little bit outside of that city of Bogor, and it was quite beautiful in the resort. And if you walked out of the resort, this was the road that you would be on. And I was always amazed to see what people would carry on their vehicles on these roads. It was just amazing. And then this is kind of the scenery. So I just I had very little time off. We were training about 6 to 8 hours a day, and I was doing a black belt test on top of it, which took a number of days. But a couple of times I did just get to walk along the road and take my camera and take some pictures of just the porches. And a warung just means like a little mini restaurant, a little store we can go and get a little bite to eat. Another kind of view just from the road, little boys playing with the rooster in the background. And the people were so friendly. I learned how to ask in their language if it's okay if I took a picture, and everyone said yes. And they were just very sweet. Another kind of view of the neighborhood and the road outside of the resort. Another convenience store. And now we're back in the resort, and we had a very special celebration at the end of our time doing the retreat. We got to celebrate the 70th anniversary of our martial arts school, and we had dignitaries come from all over, and it was really an exciting experience. And these guys, these are people inside these costumes, and they do this crazy dance. I'll show you another picture in a second. Hold on. It's really funny. I wish I had video of it, but I don't. And this is like the dragon, costume that they have the head, and then all the dancers go in. And this is the guy, his only job was to watch that dragon thing. So I think they must really revere that, just the costume itself. And you can see it's got a whole altar set up in front of it, and this guy watching it very seriously. And he was the head trainer. The other guy that I said was like the guru of the head teacher, and then he's the head trainer. So very young, very amazing teacher. And then this is us kind of getting dressed up and getting ready for this event of celebrating the 70th anniversary. I told you the name of our martial arts called White Crane Silat, and I got that little shirt with the white cranes on it, so that was kind of fun. Okay, here they are coming into the room, and so they have these like big comical hands, and they do this their dance looks like this when they do it, and it's quite fun to see, and it was so much beauty in that celebration. It was very cool. So the very last day of my retreat, I spent the day in Bogor in the city. Just I didn't have to get to my plane until like 11 o'clock that night. So I had a full day to go around and photograph. And this was one of my favorite days because probably if it would have been my choice, I would have done street photography every day and been exploring the neighborhoods and stuff. But I was obviously busy doing other things. So this was so fun just to walk around the neighborhoods of right around the headquarters. And what I found out is that the headquarters are very well known in that area. So people greeted us and they would see us and they'd say, PGB, that's the initials from our school. And we'd say yes, and they'd be like, oh, so good to see you. So it was really great. You can see there is poverty, definitely a little rundown, and the streets were so narrow. You definitely also had to be careful of the little motorcycles whizzing by. You see everybody riding a bike or so. This would be their version of a taco truck, little side place to get a meal. And I love this picture. I don't know if you can see from there, but there's a reflection of the girl driving the motorbike with a big smile on her face, and then her smile there facing me. Just an example of what the streets look like. I mean, like I said, everyone is riding on these bikes. Little kids, big kids, girls, boys. This is a temple in the neighborhood. I thought it was really interesting inside. It looks, there's a lot of Chinese culture in Indonesia. So I don't know where the differences are between the Chinese and the Indonesian, but I believe this was a Chinese temple. And you can see, again, this whole thing with nature. So you have the big rock in there. This is the view looking out on the neighborhood from the temple. And that big thing there would hold incense. I love the orange inside the tiger's mouth. So just another street scene. And then these were the murals that were actually made, like that's our school logo right there. You can see it on my computer here with the white crane. So it was really cool to be walking in the neighborhood and all of a sudden see our school there. Some familiar marketing and themes. And these are the kind of pictures I like to take of just like little vignettes of the space. And this was a feeling that was common, which would be, a little bit of shyness, but also really happy to see us. These girls were they were on that rock. That's them. So I got a little ability to zoom in. That's mosque. I'm going to go a little faster because I see I'm pretty much near the end here. I want to be able to answer some questions. These girls were delightful. All loaded up there. The teenagers. Yes, and they were just so sweet and happy, really. The whole neighborhood came out, take my picture. And then Fred from Canada, he did a little selfie with them. That's a great shot. So as they had to deal with COVID as well. That's an example of one of their little taxis that they collect a bunch of people along the way. I love this guy looking cool here. And the mom with her child on the bike, and then carrying things like they probably carried them for centuries. And that is it. So we have 2 minutes. I don't know if you all got to see my sarong. This is from Indonesia. And anyone have any questions?
So is the sarong kind of the equivalent of a hijab or something? It's
No,
emblematic of a religion or?
no, it's just their dress, but it does, you did have to wear one when you went to some of these temples, so I think that, I'm not sure, but different than hijab for sure. Yeah,
Does it rain every day at a certain time? Like, say, I know Costa Rica is like that. So does it-
they have a rainy season. In fact, I think it's now is the rainy season, but definitely not when we were there.
Insects?
No, I didn't have any insects, because like I said, everything was open like that and we never got bit. I mean, I guess there probably were some. We did have screens in our hotel space, but I was amazed how little, maybe it's because we were in the mountains or something for that resort.
What is the temperature?
So it is warm, and especially in the cities, it's warmer. But when we were up in the mountains, I would say it was like 80s, maybe 70s and 80s. It was beautiful, and maybe even a little cooler in the morning. The Indonesian would come out all dressed up with sweaters and scarves, because for them it was so cold, but for me it was amazing. It is, yeah. Mhm. But I thought it was gonna be bad, and I'm very heat adverse. I really didn't have a problem. You know, I didn't always go out in the middle of the day in like the city, but yeah.
Still foundation after. Worship purposes or self-defense.
I mean, martial, it's almost neither, although self-defense is in it. And there is like meditative practices and stuff in it, but not really worship so much as it's you know, it's martial and then it's the art together. It's based in Chinese Kung Fu, so anything that you'd get from that, I think would be similarly applied to our system. It's a hard question to answer. I can see where we're starting to end up on the being done with the time here, but yeah.
It's okay.
Okay, yeah.
How did you get there?
Okay, how to get there from Tulsa? I went from, oh yeah, I decided to actually stop in California because I did not want to have such a long flight. And it ended up being cheaper, even though I had to pay to get to San Francisco. I have good friends there as well. So I stopped there for a day and a half. And then from there went to Singapore, and then from Singapore to Bali. It was a long flight for sure, even with breaking it up that way, but it was great. I loved having that little bit of time in California.
How did you get into this? How did you even know about this particular martial arts?
How do I know about the martial art? My school was a small school in New York City area, happened to have a connection because the head guru of the martial art school had married this woman that was from my college. So there was always this connection there. But at first it was just known by the Indonesians, and then eventually, slowly but surely, I think they got involved with like a theater school in Indonesia, and that brought in some Westerners. So you got people coming from Europe and a few people from America. And so we have schools in New York. We did have one in Boston when I was there. We have Canada, and then France, Germany, Spain. So kind of the main places, but.
Nobody at retreat was young.
You know, so there were younger people, but my focus was on the older women of this group. So we actually had everything from kids to a whole, you know, younger crowds. They're in their 20s, 30s, that kind of thing. But I was focused on the 40 and above women. So that's probably why you saw that. And it's true, like one of the reasons I decided to focus on that is because I think it's a wonderful way to have a practice that you've done for so long and that keeps you so healthy and keeps not only like the outside healthy, but the internal energy as well. So I'm trying to show that through the pictures. So I'm still working on formulating all that.
Really strong.
Yeah. And if anyone has any interest in the martial art, also just let me know on that mailing list in the back.
And with it being so crowded, how was sanitation?
How what?
Sanitation.
Sanitation, oh, yeah, I don't remember it being too bad, like a lot of litter and that kind of stuff. I'm sure there was some for sure, but nothing horrible. And you don't have like open sewage really. What you do have is they burn coal and they burn garbage. And so I found the air quality really challenging, and I did get a bad upper respiratory infection while I was there, along with the traveler's tummy stuff. So I was not doing too well. And oh, I should also probably tell you, I did a black belt test, but I did not get my black belt. It was quite disappointing. I ended up with a dark brown belt, which is the one right before black, which is still a great accomplishment and whatever, but you have to go to Indonesia to get your black belt, and I don't see myself returning anytime soon. So that's probably was my chance. White Crane Silat, it's spelled S-I-L-A-T. Yeah.
Tell me what your sign-up sheet is for Missy.
Yes, I have I'm a photographer, and I have a newsletter where I send out information about like classes I'm gonna teach, upcoming classes. I don't send out more than like 4 a year, so it's for that. And then if anyone wants any information about the martial art, I'd be happy to get you that as well. Yeah.
What's the food line?
The food, it is similar to what you think of an Asian cuisine, but it's got its own flavor, lots and lots of fresh vegetables, a lot of vegetarian food, a lot of like kind of peanut sauces and, yeah, a fair amount of fried food, but also really delicious, fresh, tropical kind of food. In the Muslim areas, there's less alcohol, but it is available. Trying to think. They have a few special Indonesian treats, but I can't think of them at the moment. Yeah.
Did you have to keep your doors locked where you stayed because of the monkeys?
Yeah, we weren't right near the monkeys where we stayed. But we kept our doors locked, we didn't know what, staying in a resort, you never know who's walking around and stuff, so. Yeah. That was in Bali, and then at the other place that we had our retreat, it was a huge retreat center. There were other groups there at the same time, and so, yeah, we did keep our doors locked. I felt very safe there, but. All right, anything else? Thank you. Thank you to everyone who came out. It's so nice to have you all here, and thank you to everyone on Zoom as well.